Buying an asset is probably the most recognised or understood form of borrowing, and that's no different for social investment. Charities and social enterprises may be able to improve their long-term financial stability by buying an asset. An asset is anything the organisation owns that is worth something. So it's usually a building or some equipment that's vitally important in enabling them to do business. I actually have known an asset to be secured in some very high-tech and expensive anvils for a blacksmith social enterprise. For many organisations, the cost of renting their premises is the second biggest cost after staff salaries. So it's no surprise that buying the building where they're based can be a really good way to get some long-term benefit out of money that would otherwise be used for rent. There are some really good examples of this happening in practice. An organisation, a charity called New Start, based in Bromsgrove, found that they needed to leave their base because it was being sold by the private owner, and they managed to purchase the building next door. The cost of repaying their borrowing, so their secured loan, along with the interest, actually worked out to be less than their monthly rent, which meant that they had less outgoings, so more disposable income to spend on their charitable purpose. And also buying an asset helps to strengthen their balance sheet. So in this case, a win-win all round. Of course, if you own your own asset, then you can also potentially rent out space to others, as well as benefiting from any increased value of property over time. The concept of community hubs, shared office space are all very common and usual practice across the social enterprise and charity sector. But of course, even when buying an asset, there are some potential downsides. As with personal homes, buildings can decrease in value and they require ongoing maintenance costs to ensure that they don't become a liability. So whilst earning income from rent sounds great, not all organisations want to be a social landlord alongside their core business. In recent years, there's been growing support for something called asset transfer. So this is where a charity or social enterprise takes ownership of a building or space previously owned usually by part of the public sector, but sometimes being run as a private concern. The building or space or the service that's provided is usually one that is particularly valued by a local community, and they want to take action to ensure that it's not lost from their community use. Sometimes that could be something like a community pub or a community shop or a community leisure space, for example. If the asset you're buying is the building that your organisation is going to be based in, then of course you won't now have to pay rent anymore. But you will still need to be very clear about how you're going to afford the cost of repaying the investment. And don't forget to factor in any additional costs that you've taken on as a result of buying the asset. For example, you may now need to pay business rates, or you may need additional capital so that you can refit and refurbish the place that you have purchased so that you can be ready to commence trading. TrustLinks is a case study of asset transfer, but perhaps a slightly different one than usual. So TrustLinks had partnered with another local charity who found themselves in financial difficulty. And as part of their exit strategy, they agreed to transfer their assets, so a building, but that also came with liabilities across to TrustLinks. TrustLinks ended on taking a loan from Charity Bank so that they could repurpose the building, complete the renovations, and also make sure that they could maximise the use of space.